Besides harvesting, planting is probably one of the most fulfilling parts of gardening. When it comes to planting your crops, choosing the right soil as the foundation of the plant is crucial, as well as providing your plant enough space. In the previous video, I discussed the types of containers you can use as well as the depths that are recommended. I'm Dr. Denise DeBusk, and in this video, I will take a deeper dive in the size of your container for individual plants, as well as what you can do if you want to combine plants in an arrangement. I'll also touch on planting for the season and using companion plants to enhance your plants. It's important to select a soil that will be good for use in containers. The ideal soil mix for container gardening is one that is well draining, nutrient rich, and pH balanced. You can create a mix using a combination of a third peat moss, vermiculite, and compost. This mix is called Mel's Mix. I've used this successfully in several of my containers, and it eliminates the need for fertilization since compost provides the fertilizer. You can also purchase pre-mixed potting soil that is specifically formulated for container gardening. Although some bags of soil may have some added fertilizer, it is not normally enough for a season for vegetables, which require more nutrients. For planting, ensure that the soil level is 2 to 3 inches below the rim of the container. This additional space will allow for deep watering without causing overflow. It's best to water the soil just before planting. One of the most important pieces of container gardening is providing the plant enough room to thrive. I found this graphic by Phonics Life Hobby Center that provides a visual representation of the minimum sizes of containers. Containers are commonly defined by their volume, like 1, 2, 3, and 5 gallons. Some examples include that if you want to plant bush beans, then 3 plants in a 2-gallon container would work, although only 1 lettuce should go in a 2-gallon container. An eggplant, since they get quite large, would need a 5-gallon container. In the checklist for setup and maintenance, there is a planting guide that provides the minimum container size, how many plants to plant, minimum depth of container, and spacing of plants. Use that guide to help you provide your plants the space they need. The guide also provides information on if your crop is a cool season or warm season crop, and if it needs sun or can handle partial shade. You typically plant your vegetables in containers at the same time as you would in a garden, although you can protect containers from the cold easier than gardens. Cool season vegetables grow best at temperatures that are an average of 15 degrees cooler than warm season vegetables. Many have edible leaves or roots like lettuce, spinach, carrots, and radishes. Others, like artichokes, broccoli, and cauliflower, are grown for their immature flowers. A few, like peas and broad beans, produce edible seeds. Most of them can endure a short period of frost. These need to be planted in cooler weather. Once it gets too warm, they tend to bolt in order to flower and turn bitter. It is best to plant these in early spring so the crop will mature before the summer heat, or in late summer for a crop in the fall or winter. Warm season crops are plants that thrive and produce best in warm temperatures and longer daylight hours. They are typically planted in the spring and harvested during the summer or early fall. These crops require warm soil and air temperatures to grow properly and are sensitive to frost, so they should be planted after the last frost date in a particular region. Warm season crops are well suited for regions with distinct warm or hot growing season. Examples of warm season crops include tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, squash, corn, beans, eggplant, melons, okra, sweet potato, and basil. Once you have selected your plants, here are some helpful tips on planting. Depending on the type of vegetables you want to grow, you can either start seeds in your containers, grow seeds indoors, and then transplant them, or purchase plants from a garden center. For crops such as beans, corn, carrots, radishes, and spinach, sow seeds directly into the container, leaving 3 to 4 inches of space between each plant. Adjust according to the seed package directions and plant more than you need in case not all seeds germinate. You can thin the excess later. If you're using transplants or starters, plant them at the same level they were growing in their pot, except for tomatoes. For tomatoes, you can pinch off their lower leaves and plant the stems deeper in the container. If you're transplanting, gently loosen the root ball by tugging lightly at the roots before adding it to your container. Purchase plant tags to help identify each plant. If you want to make your container more attractive, you can make an arrangement. When it comes to arranging vegetables and herbs in containers, the thriller, filler, and spiller concept is a game changer. This clever technique not only adds visual interest to your container garden, but also maximizes space and ensures a bountiful harvest. Let's dive in and explore this concept further. First up, we have the thriller. This is the star of the show, the plant that adds height and drama to your container. Think of it as the centerpiece that grabs attention. Thrillers can be tall herbs like rosemary or basil, or even vining vegetables like tomatoes or cucumbers trained on a trellis. The key is to choose a plant that will stand out and create a focal point in your container. Next, we have the filler. These are your supporting actors, the plants that fill in the middle section of your container. Filler plants help create a lush and full appearance, providing a beautiful backdrop for your thriller. Consider using compact vegetables like lettuce or carrots, or herbs like parsley or sage. The goal is to choose plants that complement your thriller and add volume to your container garden. Last but not least, we have the spiller. These are the plants that cascade over the edges of your container, softening the overall look and add a touch of elegance. Spillers can be trailing herbs like oregano, or trailing fruits or vegetables like strawberries or trailing tomatoes. They bring a sense of movement and playfulness to your arrangement, making it visually appealing from all angles. I have a list of some thriller, filler, and spiller vegetable and herb cultivars in the Container Arranging Quick Guide that do well in arrangements. Some are dwarf varieties. With a little planning and creativity, you'll have a stunning vegetable and herb container garden that will impress both your neighbors and your taste buds. Although I'm a pretty basic container gardener, I did make a couple arrangements this season. I combined kale as the thriller, lettuces as the fillers, and thyme as the spiller. Here are some tips for arrangements. When you are doing a container arrangement, choose a pot that is larger than the minimum size of your thriller, so there is enough room to grow. Once you have the pot and soil in place, you can make a perfect hole for the plant you are planting by pressing the pot into the soil. Then take out the plant, and it is the perfect size. Another tip is to keep in mind if your plants complement each other. In the reference guide for companion plants and natural pest management, I have a table of companion plants. I chose thyme for this arrangement because it is said that thyme can enhance the flavor of lettuce. Also keep in mind if your plant is a warm season or cool season plant. Some plants have some overlap on the weather they can handle, which is what I included in the quick guide. For example, Swiss chard is a cool season crop, but it still does well in the heat of the summer. If your plant is ready to be harvested but others are not, you can replace that plant with something else to keep your garden going. Lastly, make sure your plants match when it comes to water and sun requirements. You also may need to turn your arrangement daily in order to provide your plant with more sun. Companion plants can be an absolute game changer when it comes to planting vegetables and herbs in containers. Not only do they add a touch of beauty and diversity to your garden, but they also provide numerous benefits to your plants. One of the main advantages of using companion plants is their ability to attract beneficial insects such as ladybugs and bees, which help with pollination and pest control. For instance, planting marigolds alongside your tomatoes can help repel harmful aphids while attracting pollinators to ensure a bountiful harvest. Another benefit of companion planting is the concept of plant friends. Some plants have the remarkable ability to enhance the growth and flavor of their neighboring vegetables. Take the classic example of planting basil near tomatoes. Not only does it repel pests like flies and mosquitoes, but it also enhances the flavor of tomatoes when they're harvested together. You can find a table on companion plants in the reference guide for companion plants and natural pest management. In addition, companion plants can create a natural shade and act as living mulch, helping to retain moisture in the soil and reduce weed growth. For instance, planting lettuce beneath taller plants like beans or corn can provide shade during the hot summer months, preventing the lettuce from bolting and extending its growing season. When selecting companion plants, it's important to consider their growth habits, water requirements, and nutrient needs. Ensure that the companion plants you choose have similar preferences to your vegetables and herbs, so they can coexist harmoniously without competing for resources. The 4 companion plants that I always include in my garden are marigolds, nasturtium, borage, and basil. You can plant companion plants directly with the crop or in another container near the plant. I planted a marigold in a separate Berkey bucket, but near enough to the other plants that none of them got aphids. And okra is notorious for getting aphids. In summary, planting is where you really start to get your hands dirty. Literally. It all starts with a good soil, which should be well draining and nutrient rich. You need to have a plan for planting, since some plants are cool season crops while others are warm season crops. You can direct seed certain plants, while others you need to either grow yourself or buy transplants. If you want to plant different crops in the same container, you can use the thriller, filler, spiller method to make an attractive display that complements each other. By incorporating companion plants, you can improve or protect your crop. Hopefully you learn more about planting in your containers and feel more confident about it.